How we doing, guys? Let's play some Storm. I kept this hand. I don't particularly like it that much. 4 lands is typically slow in this deck. I'm not necessarily sad to see it because these two commanders really don't scare me. Edric, on the other hand, is fairly quick. I do not have interaction for him, but I do have a mana ramp spell, an anti-soul ring spell, and a way to fetch, or craft rather, but it's not a turn 1 craft, and another control spell. So stupidly slow start. Lead UC. And we just have to hope Impulse can find a good gas card. And it's also kind of awkward that it's a 2-drop. Like, this would have been so much better as a Ponder or a Preordain or even a Brainstorm, even without the fetch land, just so that I could play both of these. Maybe not a Brainstorm, just because this hand could potentially brick Drawing Dead, but Ponder or Preordain would be much better than Impulse here. Edric doesn't play a Dork, so I guess that's pretty good. This deck is probably going to be something similar to Storm, but just slower and without defense. Or maybe just tribal crappy stuff. What is this? Can't attack or block. I think I've seen this card more than once. Okay. It sits there and rattlesnakes, and if you swing him a bunch, he gets a dragon that hits you. Okay, I guess it's not incredibly horrible, but it's not particularly good either. Worst comes to worst, we could Chain of Vapor it, but I don't really think that's necessary. Nothing from that guy. Dark Petition. Okay, there's something. Okay, so we have a hit card, and a hit card that incentivizes me to play my Grim Monolith. So Grim Monolith. Because obviously the 3 colors from Grim Monolith can pay for the Dark Petition. We're more than happy to wait for the craft of our Impulse, considering we don't have anything else going right now. We're definitely not going to feed Grim Monolith into Jeleva. Especially since Edric's not coming down turn 2. When he comes down turn 3, he doesn't even get to draw a card off of it. Scrib Ranger, okay. Card's much better in one-on-one, so maybe this is a one-on-one Edric deck. Return a force you control to your owner's hand, untap target creature. Good with the kind of elf tribal type deal. But regardless, he took a hand that doesn't have turn 1 Dork. Even if he plays Edric next turn, he gets a single cantrip and he's tapped out again. And from that position without the Dork, he definitely doesn't want to pay for the Chain of Vapors cost to bounce back my tempo and like the Grim Monolith or anything of that nature. And Teneb has done nothing, so yeah. More mana, just what I don't want to see. And no fetch. I don't think there's any reason in this multiplayer game to fake having. Guess we'll keep the command tower open and we'll play just another island. And we'll impulse like this. We want to start filling the yard for this Dark Petition, but we can't really use the Vandal Blast on anything yet. Doomsday. Dark Petition, if I use the Chain of Vapor, will pay for the Doomsday, and we can go get a cantrip with it. So yeah, easy grab Doomsday. Okay, so now I do want to use Chain of Vapor, because we get to cast the Dark Petition off Monolith plus 2 black sources, cast Doomsday with multiple blue open. We could even just grab a Ponder and it wins. Let's see if Edric behooves me here and taps out. What would be excellent is Edric tapping out. Is he mana screwed? Kept a 2-land hand with no Dork. He untaps the Scrib Ranger to replay his Edric. Oh, that's glorious. And now he definitely can't afford to sack to bounce my Monolith unless he just intends on scooping. So we'll wait. Him drawing a card could be a Force of Will. And I guess there's no other blue at the table. But if Teneb plays some kind of Hate Bear type thing, I would feel incredibly stupid. So let's go ahead and let this guy draw his card. We're perfectly okay with that. and then we'll save the Chain of Vapor. And if no one plays anything else relevant, we'll bounce the Edric at the end of this guy's turn. And hope he doesn't bounce my Grim Monolith. Because we can't double cast Gush off this Doomsday. Not enough islands for that. This is Pilgrimage, another tap out. Excellent. Okie doke. That's exactly what I want to see. Into the wilds. Don't care about you. Okay. Beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library if it's a land. Put that card onto the battlefield. Alrighty. So, I guess bouncing Edric would potentially be not the best play, since I'm going all in, and that gives him an additional card to Force of Will. But the other players actually have a potential reason to bounce the Grim Monolith, whereas I know this Edric player cannot afford to sack the land. And because of that, we're just going to hope he does not have Force of Will. So, like this, blue, blue, black, black, petition, paying colorless, gets Ponder, pays for Doomsday. And we push all in and hope this guy's no force, and then we win. So, Ponder, Doomsday. This is the most basic pile. If you don't have this one memorized, there's a problem. 2 islands in play, so the pile is simple. It is Gush on top, Lion's Eye Diamond, Gitaxian Probe, Yawgmoth's Will, Laboratory Maniac. Done. First card clicked is the last card drawn. We want Labman on bottom, Yawg Will under that, Probe and LED under that with Gush on top. Ponder, LED, Probe, Gush, no. Gush, returning 2 islands. LED, hold control, target ourselves with Probe for life. Sack black, hand gone, Yawg win. Doesn't really matter what color you break because we're going to recast the LED and crack it for blue anyway. Blue, probe myself again, Lab Man, Ponder, good game. Okay. That was fairly simple. This game had multiple games in it. Best of 3. I have a feeling that this isn't going to have everyone restart, though it would be very interesting as they'd all would team me, but perhaps Edric would take a hand that wasn't such shit. We were fairly lucky there to get a turn 4 Goldfish with a hand that looked that slow. Extra lands is usually typically good, but in general, not always so much. Before I hop into the next game, I'm just going to show you the most recent change I made. I put it on my thread here, and the most recent change was I added unsubstantiate, and I took out Pact of Negation. Now, reasons Pact of Negation was good, it cost 0, so it hit me for nothing on Ad Nauseam, and on combo turn it was obviously excellent, in that it was a 0 mana hard counter that won you the game. You could stick it in Doomsday piles, so it definitely wasn't a bad card. The problem it had is in the early turns, if you got it in your opening hand or early in the game, it was fairly horrible. There are times that it was worth casting Pact of Negation, and then paying the 5, but the tempo from that is kind of horrible as well. Obviously, if it's a casted or lose situation, it's still fairly good there. Though if you had a different counter spell in your hand, you don't necessarily leave yourself in that position. It just depends. Rather, Unsubstantiate does not have that problem. It's very, very good in the early game. It's not as good as Remand because it does not say draw a card. So it's most used mode as a defensive counterspell type deal, or just tempo counterspell for the early game is not as strong. Losing draw a card is pretty huge. However, this card is good throughout the game. Not only can you tap out and then get rid of problematic permanents, this is another answer to hate bears and creature type problems. It can bounce any disgusting commander. In my testing in paper, a lot of people are playing the new bug commander, so I wanted another way to get him off the field, which this gives me that. But more importantly, it does not taper off in the late game. When you flip Unsubstantiate off of Mind's Desire, it is similar to Remand in that you can now bounce the card back to your hand, and all of a sudden all you need to hit, in addition to this, was maybe a Gilded Lotus or a Turnabout or a Frantic Search or Cabal Ritual, anything like that, to get your mana back up to where if you're floating a couple mana, when you cast that Mind's Desire for a low number, like say 7 or 8, something that's not guaranteed to already win by itself, this is now essentially a hit card. In addition, it lets you do some cool things with using Yawgmoth's Will earlier in your line, and still having the Remand effect, or being able to use Remand plus Yawgmoth's Will, and still being able to bounce your Tendrils and stuff like that back to your hand, which is actually really, really good on the back end. And considering it's better on the front end than Pact was, this was a card that the more I tested it, the more I liked it. Originally, I thought I was going to cut Counterspell, which I've said before, you can play Arcane Denial or something like that over it. But I really like Counterspell better. I don't want to play Turn to Divination, and I played this deck enough in one-on-one where this card is just pretty much strictly better than Arcane Denial in 1 versus 1 at least. Maybe not so much in multiplayer. There's definitely an argument to be made there, but I decided I didn't want to lose this spell, especially playing against some of the things I'm playing against now and people getting a little bit better. Just having a general answer to degenerate commanders and incredibly strong plays, and the fact that I can use this proactively when I'm not getting the God Hand and I'm sitting back on the hands like you just saw with multiple lands and not being the fastest deck. I think that this deck is definitely difficult to play, and a lot of players think that you have to go fast, and it's kind of glass cannon-y. And that's just because I think they just don't know how to use it. This deck can definitely play control. When you've got lines of play that win at 5 and 6, I'm in absolutely no rush. Very much depends on the hand, whether I want to push into the center with all my chips quickly, or whether I want to, kind of sit back, play control, and then just be able to win later in the game out of nowhere. It definitely depends. But Unsubstantiate has been an excellent card for me so far. So that's my most recent addition. I just picked it up in foil, as well as I decided to get. I wanted at least one of those Kaladesh cards in my deck, and I thought about putting Mana Vault in because I just had an altar for Mana Vault and it was foil. But I absolutely hate. This is all over MTGO now, but I hate these disgusting little colorless symbols. So I just couldn't do it, and I decided to get the Kaladesh Lotus Petal instead, just because I thought the art on that was kind of hot. So. I recently purchased those 2 cards for this deck in paper, and I've really liked Unsubstantiate, and possibly we'll get to see it later on. If I play another game and I draw it, you get to see if Pact of Negation would have been better in that situation or not. So let's go ahead and join this guy's game. We'll try to get one more game in here. I mainly wanted to let the people who watch my YouTube channel and don't follow my thread know that I did switch that card. I didn't want to play more of this deck since I was kind of grinding it just to test a single card slot, which is kind of monotonous considering in theory I can probably figure these things out in general, but with all my decks it's trial by fire, and I am a grinder, and if I don't test the cards, I cannot say with certainty that I'm making the right decisions, so that's why I decide to test everything. I don't get as much paper testing as I used to, so I don't get to see it in the exact metagames I always want to, but I at least want to play with the card against real players to see what it's like when I'm not just goldfishing with a deck in my hand. So it's a little bit easier when you can see what you're going up against, and whether or not it's important that you're sitting there with a Pact in your hand or an Unsubstantiated or a Remand is a little bit difficult when you're playing against no opponents. Hopefully this game is a little bit better, and that my opponents interact with me a little bit better. That game was just kind of them tapping out to do their own thing. The one deck that I thought was probably going to be as quick as me or give me potential problems had an incredibly slow start. I'm actually going to put that on the player there. I can't see his deck build, obviously, but in general, anyone playing Edric is going to be playing max mana dorks. And choosing not to mulligan with 2 lands and no mana dork, he had a full hand if you couldn't see. That is just criminally horrible decision to make. So, sorry to that guy, but I would not have done it. Marchesa, so Grixis, Tessiger the Golden Fang, okay. And Daxos the enchantment thing. Not too worried about that. Okay, this hand's pretty excellent. 3 true mana sources, so I get a fetch, I get double islands, I get to unlock my black. I don't have a red card in my hand, so I don't need to unlock the red. I have a tutor spell, I have a ritual spell, I've got a card draw engine, and I've got a removal. This is perfectly fine. Who played first? I did not see that. Who won my die roll here? 3, 6 is this guy, so I played last. Okie dokie. I play last, but I have a soul ring. Seems fair. Tessiger molds to 6. Does he bottom or top his card? Put it on top, so I think he's not mana screwed. We can say certainly. Can't tell a whole lot else. Don't see a reason to use the fetch out the gate. We'll probably just use the island. See what we draw, though, obviously. Wayfarer's Bauble. So, a rampant growth that takes up your your first and second turn. Something that I guess can be good if you're playing a deck that lands matter in a more casual metagame. I guess this is nice because it's much less likely you're going to see Winter Orb or Armageddon than you are Disenchant. Or some kind of wipe that kills all artifacts. So I guess that's good, but using up your 1 and your 2-drop slot in general to play Rampant Growth is fairly not so good. That's all I'm going to say about that. Thoughtseize. Okay, so we've got a little bit of protection. We can check the blue pair before we do anything too powerful. But we haven't hit another mana source yet, so we'll just lead the island. We'll lead the island into the Soul Ring. I bet the only argument you could make for the Catacombs is if I wanted to just Time Twister this hand away, just to go, okay, I've got Soul Ring and 2 lands, and now that my mana's developed, I'd like a new hand. But I'm going to go ahead and wait 1 turn on that. I can still do that on my next turn if I decide that's the best line. But I'm in no real rush to use the Vampiric Tutor, I don't think. I guess the argument against that would be I don't really have an efficient way to use this Soul Ring mana on my second turn otherwise. However, I do get to use Thoughtseize if I want to upkeep the Vamp Tutor, but I don't really want to do that either. But at worst, I can use a Cyclonic Rift if I do decide to wheel and remove any good permanents they play on the subsequent turn. But I also have the chance of drawing a good card to play off of these hard. Could have played. I could have went for the Vampiric Tutor line. I kind of want to see what the top card of my deck is. It's against a weaker table. I don't think it's really as necessary. Okay, like there's a Soul Ring. So that would be excellent for me to rift away before I use my Twister. So that's not so bad. Marchesa itself is not that scary. Burnish Chart. Okay. So ramp, ramp, ramp. Burnish Chart in general I don't like. I think the real reason that Marchesa likes it has good synergy, right? I see it in Marchesa quite often. Yeah, you get to bring it back. Okay, Demonic Tutor. So Soul Ring party all around, maybe. Though he isn't green. Maybe he's going for... I often like to go for Crucible of Worlds, though he hasn't played a fetch land. Crucible of Worlds plus Exploration, I'd take over Soul Ring all day. Maybe he gets his own Soul Ring for next turn. Maybe he gets a Mana Crypt. And if he does he play it now, or does he wait until his next turn to avoid getting countered? I don't know. It's not 1v1, so it's not quite as important in that vein. But it looks like Marchesa is the one I have to worry about mana-wise, since she now, with her opening Soul Ring, is up on me. She also has this little ramp dork dude. It's tempting to just... it's tempting to rift the heart to see if she'll just replay it. I won't be able to get rid of the Soul Ring, obviously. But if I wait to bounce a Soul Ring and she gets to sack this, she gets 2 lands, which is better than Soul Ring. So I could just simply tempo her with a Cyclonic Rift and then save the Vampiric Tutor to go get my potential wheel spell. Or I could choose to just get mana to get the future side up. Turnabout, Thoughtseize. I'm trying to think. Disenchants, not so heavy played in green that much, and when they do, they're kind of expensive. The problem would be if I don't make the tempo play on this player, very decent chance he could pass with Counterspell, though I still think he's in the development stage of his plan. And this guy's taking a long as shit time to figure out what he wants to Demonic Tutor. Maybe he should have thought about it ahead of time. Obviously, I can't see his hand, but... So, if it is Mana Crypt, he chose not to immediately play it. Let's see what my top of my deck is. Laboratory Maniac. That is complete and total garbage. Okie doke. So, I want to fetch this now. There's no real reason to wait. And... I always can get Future Sight later. So, we're going to tempo this guy. And save open Vamp Tutor. And I can still choose to get mana for the Future Sight, but the problem is I have to get a blue mana, which means not a mana accelerant. I would rather a Twister, which could potentially brick and get me no lands, which would be absolutely horrible, but I still think I just need to get out of this hand at this point. Lab mana is garbage. This is still kind of slow at this point. I don't need the turnabout yet. Thoughtseize I'm obviously not going to be using if I'm going to be getting everyone new hands. A Royal Assassin. Okay. Don't care about you all that much. Hopefully this guy will redevelop into his Burnished Heart or do something equally useless. Maybe he only had 2 mana sources plus Soul Ring, 2 lands rather, Soul Ring and the Heart, and didn't have other lands. That'd still be possibly keepable in his mind. I'm going to assume he has another land drop because most people make their land drops out until at least 3. They tend to run a few more lands than I do. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. God, and he can even sack it. That is so horrible. So now he does get a redeveloped to Burnished Heart, and he even gets to get the lands, which is really, really bad for us, actually. He's going to have lots of mana on his turn, though I don't really give him credit for being a degenerate combo deck or anything with lock. So I think we'll be okay. Though it makes my decision to bounce his Burnished Heart over the Soul Ring slightly poor, unless he had some kind of really good follow-up at 3. Here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Why does he only have 1 floating? Maybe he's confused too. Can't believe that he cannot believe that I wasted my turn to do that. Okie doke. New hand. Notion Thief plus Windfall. Excellent. Okay. Both of these fetch lands are red. Ick. Okay. So tapped. Do you want to pay life? No. What do we have? Lands. This thing I don't really care about. Tap 2 untap creatures, put a 5/5. Change the target spell or ability to this guy. I guess that could be crappy. Continue to put this player on tilt. That seems like a good plan. just make him rage harder when he loses to Notion Wheel. Yeah, from here it's just pass, play Notion Thief, Windfall, win is the play. Hopefully. Okay, this guy does a whole lot of nothing that we care about. Leaves his Royal Assassin there to slay tapped cards. Una. Okie doke. I don't necessarily like exile, but I'm not too afraid of it. I got plenty of kill conditions. Alright. Soul Ring, seems good. Frantic Search, interesting. Don't really see a reason to use it yet. We're just going to play the Volk Island and say go. I don't intend on playing the Wooded Foothills. I intend on playing one of the lands I Windfall into. Let's just keep putting this guy on tilt. Do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So digging a counterspell isn't necessarily horrible off this Frantic Search. Let's see, how can we piss him off more? Well, that was an easy way to kill someone. Let's see if he left. Oh, he's a watcher. Kodama's reach, okay. Tap your blue mana. Play Tassiger. If he doesn't, we're going to frantic search to dig for counterspell. And if he has a counterspell, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can still notion Windfall on our next turn. And at least mind twist our opponents out of the game. Okay, I see no reason not to frantic search, so let's see what happens if I do. Ditch these. Okay. Draw 3 cards. No. Now he gets to untap 2 lands, so he could potentially kill a Notion Thief. So that is scary in that I let him do that. But I still have a Windfall. And this player still has 6 cards. And I could go get High Tide Candelabra, untaps, nothing but islands, and then proceed to Windfall. Even without Notion Thief, that gives me pretty good odds of doing absolutely disgusting stuff. I could even use the Verdant Catacombs to go get Watery Grave. And this denies this guy more cards. We'll see if he has Kill Spell for Notion Thief. Maybe? Tassiger. Okay. Tassiger is not a winning line of play. Ponder. Do we go get Merchant Scroll to have Force of Will up? In a normal game, I would say yes, because now you have the Ponder as your fetch card. Against these guys, I don't give them credit for having shit. And because of that, I'm going to go ahead and shock myself dirty. Yep. And we're just going to go for the kill. We're not even going to go get the Force back up, because we're going to say he does not have the Force. Otherwise, he would have forced the Notion Thief in the first place, right? If he had a pitch card. So look at all this fun. So discard, yes. Exile, yes. Let's just use this one. High Tide. This one, Manavolt, Manavolt, Black Cabal, Diamond, Monolith off the brown. Yes. Yes. Demonic Tutor for this, since they're all tapped into Oblivion. Infinite Mana Battery. Yes. Do. Yes. Mystical Tutor. Mind's Desire. Draw Mind's Desire. Oop. Okay. Doot, doot, doot. Cast it. Doot, doot, doot. Get all those there. Discard you. Yes. Discard you. Yes. Turn. Actually, top. Turn you online. Yes. Yes. More cards. Do. Oh, I didn't crack my LED. Sad day. Doot. Doot. Do. Let's see here. My storm is at remand to kill them, I think, at this point, but it's going to be easier to just do this. Bounce it all. Go pedal. You. Oh, I should have played you first. Let's play you. Tap you. Play you. Then you. Then you. Black. 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 You. Yes. Do. You. Doot. 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 Okay. So they're dead. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that guy should be dead. And that guy should be almost dead. If I counted right. See if our friend said anything. Nope. Okay. And you die. Well, we did need to grab Unsubstantiate there, but had we somehow lost Remand this game, there would have been that. Just gives us a little bit more reach there, but I think you could have seen in the last couple of games it would have been better in almost any position than Pact would have been, at least playing against these bozos. And I feel like with the amount of hate bears and stuff that better players play that specifically try to target this deck, I think it only gets better. So it wasn't exactly the best game. It's just the standard guy raging at me because I bounced his Burnish Heart. Couldn't possibly understand it being a good line of play because obviously bad. Two guys who were really confused why he was so mad, which I'm not the third guy because I'm just kind of used to people being irrationally mad. I got to show you my new card here. Not very often that a card makes a cut in this deck, so I guess that's kind of exciting. I always, with other cards like the Hercules Recall, I always love when a card gets to make the slot that fits in my control suite while bolstering my hit. Because even though this deck is really, really light on the mana, that is intentional, and I still probably lose more games to mana flood than just about anything else, even though that doesn't happen very often because I'm not playing a ton of lands. I'm only playing 28. That's probably the absolute worst thing that could happen. Like, you go through the top 20 cards of your deck, and you get nothing but lands and fast mana and control spells. And you cast Jeleva, and she hits 3 more lands and, like, mana drain and, like, a Vandal Blast or something like that. Something that can't even kill the Jeleva to recast, or like a Pyroblast will even let you keep going. Those things don't happen that often. I obviously have a lot of hit cards in this deck. I'm very hit card heavy. Part of the reason when I see people add more counter spells and take out some of the weaker hit cards in this deck, I cringe a little bit. When they're taking out mana, it's not as bad. But this deck can't play less hit cards. We want to be very hit heavy. So I don't know that those games are excellent, but I recorded them live, so what do you expect? That is going to be it for this video. Muxnix signing out.